Welcome to After the Act, a film podcast where we talk about movies and shows that we love. We are your hosts. I am Grandissimo, here with...
Godzuki.
Oh, Godzuki. Guess what? We're finally recording the sequel to one of our earliest reviews, actually.
Trip down memory lane.
Yeah. Yes. We have Godzilla versus King Kong coming at you today on ATA.
Got a bare bones background for this episode. It's okay, because all that matters is what we say.
We're hitting it raw.
Yeah,
we're
raw Konging it. There we go.
Kong. Yeah, that's the only way to do it. That's the only way you can do this movie. We recorded the Godzilla King of the Monsters like 2 summers ago, and that was definitely a movie.
It was a movie.
It was definitely a movie. And I was surprised we would even be able to record this one now, given the state of the world. But HBO has been on their stream first flow, so we're getting blockbusters to talk about. So shout out to Warner Bros.
And next week we got Mortal Kombat. So I mean, it just keeps falling into place. Honestly,
it's true. We'll have John Wick before we know it. But before we get there, I guess we're talking about the beast. So getting into Godzilla versus King Kong. I obviously did not like King of the Monsters. It had some cool visuals. But people have different expectations when you come to this kind of movie. So what were your expectations for this movie, and did they meet them?
By the way, first and foremost, the real King of the Monsters right now is a Shiba Inu. For all of you following cryptocurrency.
It's true.
Dogecoin.
Godzilla versus King Kong versus Doge.
This episode is not sponsored by Dogecoin. I wish it were, but it's not. But honestly, man, I think we said this when we did the first review for Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I think that was actually our third review that we ever did. So we were still actually kind of figuring shit out. We're so much more professional now. It's great. But we went back and forth on that one because you absolutely hated that movie, and I get it. It wasn't this amazing script. There was really no character development. Anytime the humans spoke, it was just exposition dumps left and right, and
a little bit.
It just really didn't need humans in it. And I thought that's been a huge mistake when it comes to the MonsterVerse that's being created here. Every movie we saw, they've gotten it better. It's gotten better little by little, but it started off really terrible. And look at the first Godzilla movie, what they did with Bryan Cranston, right? Coming in and kind of giving you this super dramatic role, and you realize that that's all you got was what you saw from him in the trailer. That was the full extent of Bryan Cranston in the film. And then they just spent too much time on characters you didn't care about and not enough on Godzilla, right? Godzilla doesn't even appear and fight until the last 20 minutes of that film. It got smashed by critics, including us. Before we were doing our podcasting, we were like, this movie was garbage. But from there, they did their thing with Kong Skull Island. I liked that far more. Had my boy Samuel Jackson in it. I actually really, really like Kong Skull Island. I thought that was the second best one of the current movies out there. And then they just got it wrong with King of the Monsters. Obviously, I like that far more than the first Godzilla. But just had a lot of info dumps by these human characters, kind of stating the obvious too. Things that you didn't even need to say were just said for no reason. It almost felt like the directors and writers assumed that you are brain dead and that you can't follow basic plot beats. So they felt the need to remind you and tell you about every single little detail. So that part got really annoying for me, but I can't deny that movie was absolutely gorgeous. I know when we did our ATA awards, we talked about some cool categories that you might not see at the Oscars, and one of them was, visual effects. And we thought for sure, King of the Monsters was right up there. I mean, the CGI for that movie was absolutely gorgeous. So it had its charms, for sure. But again, I really just wanted to see monsters battling. That's always been the point for me for kaiju movies, for monster movies. I just want to see the monsters and I want to see them fight. And it's just an adrenaline rush, right? It's kind of like Fast and Furious, right? At this point, you're just going to see the over the top ridiculousness that goes on, right? That's why you're there. And I think they did it with this one. At least more so. They still definitely kind of wasted time with some of these human characters again, but it wasn't as bad as King of the Monsters, and they showed a lot of the kaiju. They showed a lot of Kong. They showed a lot of Zilla and some other creatures as well. So I really enjoyed that. And I have to say, for me, the best part was I think you and I going in kind of assumed that okay, Kong versus Godzilla, they're not going to pick a clear winner, and at the end, they'll team up to fight a bigger threat. And we were halfway right with that. But they actually decided to give us the clear, decisive winner for this movie. And I thought that was fantastic. I mean, Godzilla, Kong got their licks in, but Godzilla won. And it was a very obvious win. So I really enjoyed that they did that. And I felt that it was fair because I think, Randy, you saw the original 1960s Godzilla versus King Kong movie. And I believe Kong was the winner in that one, which a lot of people were really upset about because Godzilla just has so much more power than King Kong, and they did a good job of trying to balance that out in this film. But they took turns. In the 1960s version, King Kong won. In this version, Godzilla won. So you really just pick which movie you want to see which winner. But I like this a whole lot more than King of the Monsters, man. How about you?
Sure. And I guess spoilers. I guess so. But we'll put that somewhere. But yeah, I have very low expectations for this this series. So at best, anyone can ask for is let's see some cool monster shit. And I think I like this around the same level I liked Skull Island, which was it's a theater flick I can eat popcorn to and smoke weed to, and that's how I personally enjoyed this movie. It's colorful. It's weird. I think my favorite part about this movie it's weird. They go to some weird anime places actually in terms of like the lore and origin of characters, which I've never. There's some origins they throw in here I've never seen before in the history of these monsters and the like almost hundreds of movies they've made. That was just like wow, okay, but why not? Like why not get weird? So if my thing is if I'm not going to like the movie, I want the movie to at least take some leaps and just try out something. Just go swing for the fences. And I think this movie does do that. It's like, you know what? Let's take the audience to a place they've never been before with these characters, and they do that. So it's not really a movie that was up my alley. Like I didn't like really like it, but in terms of the category of monster movies, I mean, there's a lot of these movies, whether it's the kaiju movies or this one or Transformers, I'd put on the same level. You want to see cool choreography. You want to see these big ass creatures go at it in a cool way. And I think they do succeed for the most part with that. There's some cool choreography, some cool. Again, it felt like an anime. It felt like we were watching an episode of an anime of these creatures. Just one character gets its ass whooped. It learns its own origin. It gets some power ups. Goes back in for a final battle. And that's how it felt. So as a fan of anime, I liked it in that sense. I think, I liked it around the same level as Skull Island. Just it's a fun movie. I can say it's fun. I would give it a fun rating. And I was going to dive into more spoilers. So just, again, more spoilers. But the movie operated exactly how I felt like we thought it was going to do. It did give the winner to Zilla. And Kong kind of get the whole like, okay, like you got it, you do got it. But yeah, it operated exactly how we thought it was gonna be. It's like, oh man, they're beefing, they're still beefing. Oh shit! And if they were gonna beef over, and then team up later, I'm glad they teamed up against Mechazilla. They had to throw in a Mecha Godzilla at some point in the franchise, which also kind of tells me that they might be done with it. I'm not sure if they're gonna be done with this franchise, but they threw in Kong, Zilla, Mecha. They can always expand it, but they went for it. They went for I think that's like my favorite villain besides maybe like a Mothra type in the Zilla series is that Mechazilla. It's just very like, again, it's very anime like the only thing we can defeat it with is technology of the same kind. So I enjoyed that part. I think my favorite part of this movie is just seeing that weird ass Kong origin story that he got. That was fucking weird, dude. I don't know how you felt about it, but it was weird, and I was like, you know what? Why not? Why not give him a fucking throne with a fucking axe that can harness the power of Zilla? Sure.
Which is interesting, right? Because they didn't really dive too deep into it, right? That's what I liked, right? That's one of the things I liked because had it been King of the Monsters, they would have force fed that exposition down our throats. But for this one, you could kind of infer certain things based on just the scenery in the background, and the fact that in the Hollow Earth realm, I guess, which they finally got to explore with physics that actually makes no sense at all. But we'll just suspend our disbelief because it's a Kaiju movie. But they had images of like Kong's race in the Hollow Earth realm. And I know in Kong Skull Island, they also alluded to the fact that Kong had parents who also passed fighting, some creature. They didn't say what it was. So in this one, they kind of make that connection even more by showing like hieroglyphics on the palace where Kong is supposed to be. I guess that's his home. And they show like pattern of Godzilla around the indentation where he gets the axe from. So they kind of set up like, okay, it's meant for you to infer perhaps that Godzilla's race and Kong's race were always fighting for dominance, much like humans tend to fight the elements, right? The way I view this is more like humans versus dinosaurs. Dinosaurs had their time to reign on Earth, and then humans came and became top of the food chain through innovation, which is, we're very closely related to primates, so that made a lot of sense. So I kind of got the symbolism there, and that's what I assumed was happening with the background story. And those two are the last of their race, so it made sense that if they were always beefing, so to speak, that Kong's race would somehow develop a weapon that would kind of even the playing field. And what better way to do that than to essentially duct tape some dorsal fin from another Godzilla to a big piece of wood and use it as an axe? I mean, why not, right? So,
guys, I have a plan. All right. No, they shoot like radioactive fire. Yeah, it's really fucked up. They keep killing us. Well, here's a stick and a stone.
Exactly. It's so ancient human. I love it.
Terry has some like rope we can tie it together, and I think we'll be good.
That should even the playing field, right? And it did. It did. It was amazing.
It technically did. Yeah, I like the I mean, the Hollow Earth was quite stupid, but it's like, okay, I like seeing Kong, just his intelligence of like, okay, I understand these pictures. Okay, there's a throne and a weapon. All right, I get it. Like I didn't need a crew of humans to explain what was happening, like you said, for like 5 minutes. Like, all right, yeah, just let it go. Just like I can figure out what's happening here. Although I did wonder, like, who drew those hieroglyphics? Was it Kong's people? Were humans fucking up in there? And it was like, yo, we gotta document this.
So to be fair, I don't think it was humans, only because of that weird thing they stated with the Hollow Earth, right? Only things of large size could survive the inverse of gravity, which again, I'm not even going to get to why that makes no sense. But
that implies Kong's people drew that up.
Exactly. Is, so
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Kong was shown to be really intelligent in the film, right?
He spoke.
Actually, yeah, and that's one of the things I really liked. Surprisingly, I didn't think I would like any of the human elements in this film. They included some pretty good representation in the NTID community by teaching Kong sign language, and they had an actor in the film who spoke in sign, and they did a really good job. What I know, you know this, but the public does not. I date someone who's studying to be a medical interpreter for American Sign Language, and I had her watch some of the clips to see how accurate it was. And she said, for the most part, the reason why she doesn't like a lot of films that incorporate American Sign Language into it is because when they film, because of the nature of filming, you have to do like a 1/3 shot for the most part, unless you're trying to emphasize certain things. But she said they block out the actual signing because they need to get those shots. And she said for this film, they didn't do that. They actually showed them signing clearly and concisely. And she said for the most part, it was all very accurate in terms of actual interpretation. So I really like the fact that they decided to go to those things to be inclusive for this film. So that's actually one of the human elements that I really loved, to be honest.
Yeah, I think she's the only character I like. Um, I wish I knew more about her. Like, I actually didn't know like what she was doing there. But what they showed was interesting. Because Kong, the best of the Kong movies is always a relationship between him and a human at least, and how things that are perceived to be beasts can be as human as us and even better. That's what I usually like about these movies, is the relationship with mankind. That's what makes great Zilla movies and Kong movies. So they dabbled in that. They dabbled in that with some interesting ASL character based usage. So that was cool. I really didn't understand what any of the other humans were doing. None of them were interesting. Once again, less human interaction in this movie, but the ones they had, like with Millie and was it Brian Henry? I think, like the podcast conspirator.
Yeah. Although I love him, like he's a great actor.
I love him,
watching him.
and that was a
He's
new
just
character. He never done that
like
character before. But
Yeah.
that's like I'd stop. I don't I just didn't care what they were doing. I was like, just stop it. As you don't seem like you're contributing actually. And that's how I felt about every single character. Like the only characters that did anything, it felt like, were the ones that created Mechazilla, and then had weird malfunctions where now that one dude's, I don't know if he like kind of melded with it in a fucked up way. His conscious kind of uploaded there, or it just went full autopilot. Not sure.
So I actually really liked that part because I interpreted that a completely different way. So I'll preface it with this. One of the things I was really concerned about when it came to these movies is certain characters in Godzilla. They work in Japanese cinema because of the culture there. They're used to seeing like Sentai films and Sentai shows and Kaiju battle stuff. Like that's just part of Japanese culture. They grew up with it. But here in America, look how long it took us to transition into anime, right? When we were young, we used to watch Toonami, and that was really the show or the program that introduced anime to America for the most part. So I feel like we're just a little slower on the pickup here in the States. But one of the things I was really concerned about was some of these designs might be too quote unquote goofy, right? Like for instance, Mechagodzilla is just a giant robot that looked like Godzilla. And I was really concerned because I was like, that might seem a little too spoofy when you try to make it into a more serious thing. At least here in the States. But I thought they did a beautiful job with the design of Mechagodzilla. They kept it simple. It didn't look overly like beefed up or too humanoid either. It looked like something I would see in Pacific Rim, which was I was just totally fine with that. So I did like the design of Mechagodzilla, but that scene for me, I interpreted it completely different, and I'll tell you why I actually liked it. So they reveal in this film that they're using King Ghidorah's skull and brain to kind of pilot Mechagodzilla because it's such a complex machine. So they need some assistance with piloting something so complex. And at the end of Godzilla King of the Monsters, that post-credit scene, it actually shows them finding the head that Godzilla bit off of Ghidorah, which is the head they use in this film. And the way I interpreted it as is that Ghidorah's subconscious took over, right? So it overcame the consciousness of the pilot because they were using its nervous system and brain, and it uploaded itself into a new body, aka Mechagodzilla. So I thought that was really clever because if you look back at the old Godzilla series, they had not only Mechagodzilla but Mecha Ghidorah as a villain. And I felt like that was a way of fulfilling both of those without it being perceived as too over the top. So for me, that was essentially you got Mechagodzilla and Mecha Ghidorah in one film. Because to me, it was Ghidorah taking over, using Mechagodzilla's body to try to get revenge on Godzilla, essentially.
Sure, I'd buy that. Yeah, my only segue of that was that was the only purpose of those human characters too, was just to bring you to Mecha. Yeah, humans failed again in this movie, but the monster battle, like the final monster battle, cool, sure. You have some interesting choreography with Kong and Zilla just trying to take apart each limb, each like every time someone's going to throw a. Honestly, and it probably doesn't sound like a good comp, and I think it's probably accurate though. Is that final battle seemed the equivalent of the final scene for Hobbs and Shaw Fast and Furious spinoff, where spoiler alert for Hobbs and Shaw, but they're both fighting this, almost cybernetic Idra, and he's able to calculate the movements and shit like that. So they have to team up with their own strengths. One's faster, one's stronger, to disable him and defeat him. And the choreography seemed pretty similar, actually. It was just the whole like, oh, we can't defeat him as individuals. Well, I know what to do together. And then they team up, they do it. It reminded me of Hobbs and Shaw. It's a weird comp, but it really did. But it worked on the scale that they were doing it. It was colorful. I think some of the worst shots in King of the Monsters were the darker setting ones where you couldn't really see the details of the creatures, but this one was nice, bright, out in the open, so you can see every detail, all the money you can see. It's all on camera, and that worked for its favor when you're watching Zilla try to take out a limb while Kong reaches for the axe and finishes off and stuff like that. And then obviously the final blow was again very anime like, where Zilla's like, oh, I recognize that axe, I know what to do here, let me charge it up for you. Shoots the beam at the axe. Kong takes that fucking supercharged thing like Thor's hammer, chops it off. This is cool. Like as a final like team up battle move, sure, why not? Give the axe some shine and let it.
I really enjoyed that too, because it gave Godzilla some intelligence too. Because Godzilla is intelligent, but being a reptile / lizard, you wouldn't expect it to have the same cognitive abilities as a primate. But in this one, they show that Godzilla, just like Kong, is very capable of understanding, and humans shouldn't be so quick to judge the conclusions that they're just mindless, chaotic creatures, right? This movie kind of concludes with it saying, no, these creatures are actually incredibly smart, and we deserve to we should respect them, not only because they're powerful, but because they're actually very similar to us. So I did like that connection. I really enjoyed the choreography, man. I just love seeing the fact that it was very brutal. You saw Kong continuously trying to like break Godzilla's jaw, which he's so used to doing with the other creatures. And then the same with Mechagodzilla when he had Godzilla pinned and he was opening Godzilla's mouth and about to do atomic breath. And I was like, damn, that's actually super brutal. I really like this. And the fact that they forced Godzilla to actually use his hands this time, because in other films he just kind of uses atomic breath and tail. But in this one, he actually roams around kind of like a snapping turtle on all fours, kind of chomping it at Kong in their fight scene. So I really like the brutality. I really like the choreography of this one. I think they give each one their opportunity for giving out licks, essentially.
Yeah, they do. They use their little advantages. Like Zilla had a really easy advantage when he finally put Kong into the water, and that's how he was able to win the first battle. And it was like that alpha moment of like, yeah, I won. Like, I don't need to continue this fight. You're done. I'm going to continue off. Fuck off. Eat some fish. Whatever. And then yeah, they use that to their advantage. Like Zilla has fucking atomic breath, claws, a tail, and that Kong is like us. He's a monkey. He's a monkey. He do some monkey shit. And yeah, that all came together at the end. Pretty cool. And like you stated at the top, the whole like who's going to win between them, who is recognized as, probably actually the king. And there's like, it's not explicit, but it is seen implicitly through the creature's actions of Kong's like, I recognize you. Like, I won't bow to you, but I recognize that you're a fucking alpha. You're definitely an alpha. I'm gonna try to keep my own alpha status, but I recognize who you are. It was like, an end of a DBZ arc, and Vegeta's like, all right, Kakarot, like, you're more powerful. Sure, I'm not gonna fucking stop, but I real recognize real. Zilla's
So
like,
would
I know.
who would be Vegeta, Kong or Zilla?
Oh, Kong. Kong would be Vegeta. You know, the end of the Majin Buu arc. Like, all right, Kakarot, you're the best. You're the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had that mutual respect moment at the end, right? Godzilla just looks at the axe and he looks at at Kong. He's like, "What are you gonna do with that again? What are we? How are we gonna finish this?" And then Kong was just like, "Man, fuck it, whatever. Just you do you, I'll do me. Don't fuck with me, I won't fuck with you. I'm fucking tired." And Godzilla's like, "Yeah, you right. I'm tired too. So we're gonna squash this beef." Kong's just like, "Bet." And then they go their own ways, and that's
It's
essentially the end
fucking
of the movie.
squash. It's squash.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, you know, that's fair.
Literally squashed. But yeah, man, I liked it, and I love the fact that there's just little details I enjoy about the fight. So, for instance, to me, in this whole movie, I felt like Godzilla was just that reluctant anti-hero where he's just like, ah, fuck, I always gotta be dealing with this shit. These humans always interfering with shit. I gotta clean up their mess. They don't know what they're doing. Right, which is why he's attacking everyone in the beginning of the movie. And then even when he fights Kong, he just looks so reluctant. He's just like, oh, come on, just fucking bow. I don't want to do this right now. I got other shit to worry about. There's like this big mecha thing that's gonna get created and fuck everything up. Can you just not right now? And then as soon as Kong hits him with his axe, like his charged up axe, you see it right in the choreography. Godzilla just goes bonkers. He just gets upset. It's like, oh, this is what you wanted. This is what you wanted me to do. He just like flips Kong onto the floor and then just starts kicking his ass. It's actually really really interesting, that little piece of detail right there. And then at the end, like you said, when they pieced out from one another, Godzilla just looks just so tired. He's just like, oh, fuck it, whatever. You just don't fuck with me and just leave me alone. And then he just walks off. So that's very DBZ-esque, especially that Majin Buu saga where Goku and Vegeta are just fucking exhausted from dealing with Majin Buu while everyone else is essentially chilling on Earth.
Yeah, and more DBZ, that saga started out with Vegeta trying to fight Goku just to see who's the strongest. And ends with like, whatever. Just whatever.
It all comes back to anime, man.
It does.
But here's the question I have for you. What was your favorite moment in the battle between Kong and Zilla? What did you like the most out of that?
I did like those moments when Kong was trying to like rip the jaw open, because that's like, I feel like if he was part of some kind of like Mortal Kombat game, that'd be his finisher, because he does that. I feel like every movie, like even back in the Peter Jackson movie where he's fighting the T-Rex like creatures, he's just like fucking ripping it open, biting the tongue out. So I love that kind of move. But I mean, honestly, it was like that's that finishing blow. It was like I don't know. It was probably a little cheesy, but I do like the whole like, I'm gonna help you out with the axe. I'm gonna charge it up, then you fucking hit him with the blow. Because it's just like, go anime. Just go full on anime. That's exactly what they did. They combined their finishing moves. That would be in like Marvel vs. Capcom games. That'd be like a team finisher right there. So yeah, that was one of the weirder moves, and that's why it's my favorite one.
So would you say that in that moment, Kong was just telling Zilla, "Yo, I got a favor to ask you"? Would you say that?
Yeah, I would. I would say that. There's no other way to go with that, and I respect that route.
I also love that they showed that when Kong was in the Hollow Earth, he killed that one giant creature. I think they dubbed it the werebat. But after he killed it, he just like ate its head, which was kind of gross and also very satisfying for some reason.
Very Ozzy of him.
Exactly. But I guess the last little detail I'll make note of here is the fact that they show Kong getting his axe in the Hollow Earth, right? And he's like, "Oh shit, the field is even now. He's got a weapon to protect him against atomic breath." And then immediately after that, somehow Godzilla senses it, and he just blows a hole through the earth. He just charges up and fries everything from the surface all the way down to the center of the earth. I was like, okay, well now he's even more broken. Like I thought Kong had a chance, and then he nukes the fucking earth. I was like, okay.
I forgot he did. You're right, because it's like, whatever death battle calculations you could do. That's a ridiculous thing. There's- Which
Yeah.
then, who the fuck crafted that fucking axe? Like, what builder? What? That axe is crazy. Then, if it can take that blow.
It was Terry with the piece of
It was
cloth.
Terry. It was Terry in the back.
Yeah.
Got some good rope, guys. It's pretty good.
Shout out to Terry.
Went to Monster Lowe's, got hooked up.
Yeah, and I love the cameos from previous films. Like for instance, I forget what they call them, the Skull Crushers or something like that. Skull Eaters from Kong. The final boss was that one giant lizard thing. They brought that creature back to test against Mecha, and Mecha just like obliterates it pretty instantaneously. But I enjoyed the fact that they brought back older creatures to kind of hype up where the series currently is.
Yeah, power scaling.
They were power scaling.
Yeah.
Exactly. I actually really enjoyed that. One of the things I didn't like was the fact that they killed the daughter so fast. I forget the actor's name. She's in a lot of stuff. I remember her from Baby Driver as well. But she was the daughter of the one CEO guy who was building Mecha Godzilla. And I love her as an actor, but she died in the most anticlimactic but also hilarious way. Where the spaceship gets caught by Kong. She's like, "Oh no!" And it's like gone forever from the film. But that was a funny little thing that I wasn't expecting in the film, to be honest.
Yeah, sounds about right for the human characters. It sounds exactly right.
Yeah.
That's fair. It's a monster movie. Like if you're going into this thinking of it can be anything other than a monster movie, at most it elevates to a monster anime movie. So
yeah, like, shame on you. What did you expect from a Godzilla movie? I mean, you know exactly what you're getting into. It's in the title. Kong versus Godzilla. Anytime you get a something versus something, you should not be surprised when you get the whole movie being that it's that thing versus that thing. So, I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm trying to remember if there's any other tidbits I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, just one more question to kind of pose to you here. Now that they've kind of done the Mecha the more iconic characters, I'd say, right? Like Mecha, Ghidorah, those are always the bigger baddies in the movie series for Godzilla. They could do Mecha Ghidorah, but again, I think they kind of covered both of those villains with this film. The only other one I think they can do that would be an actual believable challenge for Godzilla would be Destroya. I don't know if you ever saw that one, Randy, from back in the day. Yeah, but they already kind of allude to that villain in King of the Monsters when they use the hydrogen destroyer. Because I know back in the old films, the hydrogen destroyer is what gives birth to Destroya, the creature, and it's one of the only creatures I think in the film series that causes Godzilla to die. So they've already introduced that, so I could totally see that being kind of like the Thanos of this MonsterVerse, right? It's ironic the humans create a creature that will inadvertently kill Godzilla like they wanted to, but at the same time, they create something they can't stop themselves. So I think that would be a cool villain for the end-all, be-all for the MonsterVerse for Godzilla. But how about you? I know there's several other ones like Space Godzilla, etc. What do you think would be kind of a good way to progress in terms of a villain?
I was gonna go with the Space Godzilla route, only to follow suit in the Fast and Furious pitch I had of sending them to space. I actually just want them to get this go weird, make it interesting for a future me. Go really weird to send Godzilla to space. Like, oh shit, there's like the space thing that's in space that's gonna fuck us up eventually, like Galactus. So we have to send Godzilla to space. So they find
There's a leprechaun up there too.
It's like sits on his shoulder. He's actually the true villain of it all. So I want them to send Godzilla to space, to some other planet, and then find out there are some creatures like him that are in like hollow Mars, and he has to just fight all these space Godzilla ass. He'll work his way up to Space Godzilla. There's a lot of other space-based creatures he'll have to fight. Martian Manhunter's in there for some reason, weird crossover. And then he works his way up to Space Godzilla.
That's how you do it. That's the real crossover we want. We want Justice League versus MonsterVerse characters. That's it. That's the end game right there.
Yeah. Where else can you go?
I kind of like Space Godzilla, man. That's a good one too because Ghidorah also came from space,
You did.
so it'd be appropriate to kind of set that up maybe as like a final question to the audience. Is like, oh, all these other creatures are coming from outside the planet, and Kong really, or Kong and Zilla just are here to defend it, and that's it. Like that's how you can end the whole franchise, right? It's just be like, yeah, that's the conclusion. We kind of need them to protect us from all this planetary shit that keeps happening to us. So y'all guys, do your thing, and we'll try not to get in your way. And that would be a great finale, I think, if humans admit at the end, just stay out of the way, like I wanted them to do for every single fucking movie. But yeah, that would be pretty dope. But let us know in the comment section, guys, what you would like to see in terms of where the MonsterVerse is going. But what would you rate this movie, man?
I would rate it a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10.
So is that basing it on just comparing it to like other standards you hold other movies to, or are you just holding that to like like a Godzilla slash monster movie?
Just my feels. I rate with my feels. So I watched it. I'm like, you know what? I liked it half as much as a perfect movie, which I think is a gentle way to word it. It was fun. So those 5 points come from the fun of it. The other 5 is it's just not a movie that's going to critically pique my interest. And even in movies like, Raid Redemption or something like that, where it's all about the choreography, it didn't really wow me enough, even in that realm, to say, wow, this is like a great movie for what it can be. Because if this is the peak of monster movies, then I don't think monster movies are quite for me. But it was fun. And for the fun it gave it a solid 5.
Okay. And just basing it off of another monster movie like Pacific Rim, which did you enjoy more?
I think both movies are better reviewed if I was 13. Personally, like I remember watching Pacific Rim in theaters and thinking, I would love this movie if I was 13. Like this would be the shit. But I was like
Megazords.
20 at the time or something, so it was like it didn't quite hit. I think they're probably even. I think Pacific Rim, the humans were more tolerable, and there was faster paced action going on. Humans were still shitty, but they were a little more tolerable. I think it had Charlie Day in it. I can always tolerate Charlie Day. And I think the action was a bit more fast paced, where I like the choreography. But this one was a little more epic with Zilla versus Kong, had more epic moments. I put them at the same level.
Okay. That's fair.
What about
I think Pacific Rim. Yeah, for me, Pacific Rim has more reason to have humans in it, right? Because they have to pilot the shit.
It's
So it's
baked
more
in. Yeah.
right. So it's more about the humans in that movie, which is something I like more than any of the MonsterVerse movies so far. Uh, but personally, I grew up watching Godzilla films just like you, man, especially with my dad. That was one of the big bonding experiences I used to share with my dad is watching these movies on Turner Classic Movies or TNT back in the day or Sci-Fi. They would always play those, and I used to watch them as horrible dubs, right? Because that's all you used to see back on public TV in the day, which kind of added to the charm of it. So I'm definitely lost to nostalgia on that one. But
Sure.
if I had to rate this out of 10, taking all those factors into account, it'd be similar to yours, man. I would definitely say it's my favorite of the MonsterVerse movies, but I'd give it like a 5.5 out of 10. I'm a little more generous. 5.5 out of 10. I liked it exactly for what it was. It surprised me for the expectations I had going into it. But all in all, they're still very predictable, fun, but I don't know if it's worth a rewatch. The only time I think I'd probably rewatch it is if I'm gonna watch it, let's say, with my girlfriend or something like that, and I want to, learn some more ASL or see how they, just as a film person, see how they managed to film those scenes so well. But other than that, 5.5 out of 10. But hey, I'm not complaining. Got exactly what I wanted out of there. So you guys let us know what you would rate this film. Definitely like, comment, and subscribe to all of our stuff. Randy will hit you with the plug here, but it would really help us out creating more content, and especially just kind of showing us what you guys do and do not like in terms of reviews. So also let us know if you have anything you want us to watch as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can find all the work at malumpictures.com. So after the Act podcast, all the episodes are there. You can also find other podcasts like the Magic Conch podcast or some of our games that we stream on malumpictures.com. Follow us via the names on Facebook at After the Act or the Magic Conch or Malum Pictures. We do a lot of things because we just like doing it. We like talking, even if it's two people listening to the ether. We will continue to talk until it's like Godzilla, King Kong, Avengers movie comes out in 10 years. We will talk about that then too. But until next time, hey, everyone, find your Terry, grab your axes, stay alpha.
I still think the best monster movie is Jaws, but that's a different conversation.
Fair enough.
All right. Peace.